Rodriguez is just a paper pusher playing dress-up. Staff Sergeant Mills had sneered 2 hours earlier at Fort Bragg. What's she gonna do against real operators? File them to death. The hostile SEAL at Table 6 was reaching for his concealed weapon when Rodriguez exploded into motion, overturning the diner table with devastating force and drawing her Glock 26 in one fluid movement that would neutralize 4 trained killers in the next 37 seconds. Captain Elena Rodriguez sat in the corner booth of Mel's Diner at 2,134 hours on a rainy Thursday evening, her auburn hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, green eyes scanning the local newspaper while nursing her third cup of coffee. At 28, she possessed the kind of unremarkable appearance that made her perfect for intelligence work: average height, athletic but not imposing build, the kind of face that disappeared in a crowd. Her civilian clothes, jeans, and a faded Georgetown University sweatshirt gave no indication that she held a top-secret clearance or that her personnel file was classified at levels that required presidential authorization to access. The diner buzzed with typical small-town evening activity. Truckers occupied the counter stools, families filled the center booths, and teenagers clustered around the jukebox. Rodriguez had chosen this particular establishment precisely because of its mundane normalcia, perfect place to decompress during her 72-hour leave from Fort Bragg, where she officially served as a cultural affairs specialist in the 81st Airborne Division's intelligence unit. What her official records didn't reflect was her childhood spent on military bases across 3 continents, where her father, Colonel Miguel Rodriguez, had insisted she master not just languages, but the tactical applications of psychological operations. By age 16, she could conduct interrogations in 7 languages and had memorized the organizational structures of 43 terrorist organizations. Her mother, a former CIA operative, had taught her that the most effective weapons were often the ones nobody saw coming. The bell above the door chimed at 2,147 hours, and Rodriguez's peripheral vision caught the entry of 4 men. Her training kicked in automatically: posture assessment, clothing analysis, movement patterns. 3 moved like civilians, soft around the edges, probably contractors or office workers. The 4th was different. Military bearing, controlled movements, eyes that swept the room with professional interest before settling on her corner booth. Navy SEAL. Rodriguez assessed within seconds. Active duty, probably Tier 1, recently operational based on the slight tan line where his watch should be but wasn't. Top-operational security measure. He chose Table 6, positioning himself with clear sightlines to both entrances and her location. The other 3 men joined him, their conversation carrying across the diner's ambient noise. Rodriguez's Arabic language training allowed her to catch fragments of their discussion, something about delivery schedules and international shipping routes. Standard cover talk, but the 4th man's body language suggested elevated stress levels. At 2,152 hours, the SEAL made direct eye contact with Rodriguez and spoke clearly. Phoenix 7-7, request immediate dust, off, grid, coordinates, Delta 49er. Rodriguez's blood went cold. Phoenix 7 was her classified call sign from Operation Nightfall, a mission so black it didn't officially exist. The dust-off request was emergency extraction protocol, and the coordinates referenced a Taliban stronghold in Afghanistan where her unit had operated 18 months earlier. Only 7 people knew those specific details, and 3 of them were dead. She set down her coffee cup and casually reached for her purse, fingers finding the compact Glock 26 concealed in the specially modified compartment her father had installed years ago. The SEAL's companions hadn't reacted to his coded message, confirming they weren't military. Hostile actors, most likely intelligence operatives, who had somehow compromised her identity and location. The tactical situation crystallized in her mind with perfect clarity. The SEAL was either under duress or had been turned. The three unknowns were handlers or muscle, positioned to control egress routes. The coded message was designed to flush her cover and force a reaction. Classic intelligence entrapment operation. "Check, please," she called to the waitress, maintaining perfect vocal control while her mind calculated angles, distances, and probability matrices. The nearest civilians were an elderly couple 2 tables away, a trucker at the counter 37 feet distant, and a teenage couple in the far booth. Acceptable collateral damage risk if she maintained proper fire discipline. The SEAL's right hand moved beneath the table, and Rodriguez caught the telltale shoulder shift that indicated he was drawing a concealed weapon. His companions simultaneously tensed, hands moving to inside jacket positions. Professional coordination suggested extensive rehearsal. Rodriguez stood smoothly, leaving a $20 bill beside her coffee cup. "Excuse me," she said to the waitress, "could you tell me where your restroom is located?" "Back hallway, past the kitchen," the woman replied, pointing toward the rear of the establishment. Rodriguez walked calmly toward the indicated direction, maintaining casual pace while her tactical awareness shifted into combat mode. 17 steps to the hallway. Kitchen entrance at 12 steps. Emergency exit marked at the hall's terminus. Multiple concealment options among the equipment and storage areas. Behind her, she heard chair legs scraping against linoleum as the 4 men rose to follow. The hallway extended 32 feet from the dining area to the emergency exit, with the restroom doors positioned at the halfway point. Industrial lighting created harsh shadows between the fluorescent fixtures, and the narrow space would limit maneuverability for multiple attackers. Rodriguez reached the restroom door and paused, listening to footsteps approaching. "Ma'am, we need to have a conversation." The SEAL's voice carried down the hallway, professional but edged with tension. Rodriguez turned to face them, hands visible but positioned for rapid deployment. "I think there's been some mistake, gentlemen. I'm just trying to use the facilities." The 4 men had spread across the hallway's width, blocking retreat to the dining room. The SEAL stepped forward, his right hand still positioned near his concealed weapon. "Captain Elena Rodriguez, serial number 945-67-3000-421, assigned to Special Activities Division, under Operation Nightfall classification. We know exactly who you are." Her cover was blown, but the precision of their intelligence suggested a significant breach at the highest levels. Someone with access to presidential-level briefings had compromised her identity. The implications stretched far beyond her personal safety. If they had her information, they likely possessed details about ongoing operations that could cost American lives. "I'm sorry, but I think you have me confused with someone else," Rodriguez replied, maintaining her civilian persona while calculating engagement sequences. "I work in marketing for a tech company in Raleigh." The leftmost attacker, a stocky man with Eastern European features, stepped closer. "We have photographs of you at Firebase Alpha 7. We know about the 12 Taliban fighters you eliminated during the compound assault. We know about the classified documents you recovered from the HVT bunker." Rodriguez's mind raced through the operational timeline. Firebase Alpha 7 had been compromised by an IED attack that killed her commanding officer and 3 teammates. She had indeed neutralized multiple hostiles while recovering sensitive intelligence materials, but that information was classified at levels that required congressional oversight to access. The breach was catastrophic. "Listen," she said, allowing a slight tremor to enter her voice. "I really don't know what you're talking about. Maybe we could discuss this somewhere more private? There are innocent people in the dining room." The SEAL smiled coldly. "Very professional, Captain. But we're not here to harm civilians. We just need you to come with us quietly." There are people who want to debrief you about your activities in Afghanistan. Rodriguez nodded slowly, then suddenly shoved the table against the wall with explosive force, sending ceramic dishes crashing to the floor while she dropped into a tactical crouch and drew her Glock 26 in a single fluid motion. The sound would alert the diner's occupants and hopefully trigger someone to call law enforcement. "Federal agent," she shouted, though it wasn't technically accurate. "Everyone get down." The four men reacted with professional speed, drawing weapons and seeking cover behind the limited concealment available in the narrow hallway. The SEAL produced a suppressed HK-30, while his companions wielded various sidearms. Their coordination confirmed extensive training and operational experience. Rodriguez's tactical assessment shifted rapidly. 4 trained shooters in a confined space with limited cover presented a complex engagement scenario. Her advantages included superior positioning near the restroom door, intimate knowledge of her weapon's capabilities, and extensive close-quarters combat training. Disadvantages included numerical inferiority and unknown levels of body armor among her opponents. "This doesn't have to escalate," the SEAL called out. "We just need information about Operation Nightfall. Cooperate, and everyone walks away." Rodriguez processed the tactical geometry while maintaining her firing position. The emergency exit behind her offered escape, but abandoning the scene would leave civilian witnesses vulnerable and allow the hostile intelligence team to disappear. Her training and oath demanded she neutralize the threat and secure the operatives for interrogation. Phoenix 7. 7 to any station. Contact front. 4 hostiles. Requesting immediate backup. She transmitted through her encrypted communication device, knowing the signal would reach the appropriate authorities within minutes. The leftmost attacker moved to flank her position, forcing Rodriguez to engage. Rodriguez's first shot took the flanking attacker center mass at a distance of 11 feet, the 9mm Federal HST round penetrating his sternum and dropping him instantly. Her second shot, fired 0.7 seconds later, caught the second hostile in the throat as he attempted to return fire from behind inadequate cover. The SEAL and remaining operative immediately returned suppressing fire, their muzzle flashes illuminating the hallway in strobing patterns. Rodriguez rolled left behind the restroom door frame, feeling concrete chips spray from impacting rounds. Her tactical count indicated approximately 14 rounds expended by her opponents. If they carried standard 15-round magazines, they would need to reload soon. She waited for the brief lull that indicated magazine changes, then emerged from cover with her Glock extended in a perfect Weaver stance. The third hostile was still fumbling with his reload when Rodriguez's third shot struck him in the upper chest, spinning him against the wall, where he collapsed beside an industrial mop bucket. The SEAL had completed his magazine change and was advancing toward her position with professional fire discipline. Rodriguez assessed his approach angle and realized he was attempting to close distance for a more decisive engagement. His suppressed weapon gave him a significant advantage in the confined space. "Outstanding work, Captain," he called out while advancing. "But I still have 12 rounds and you're down to what, 4? 5? The math doesn't work in your favor." Rodriguez counted her remaining ammunition, actually 6 rounds left in her magazine, plus 1 spare 15-round magazine in her jacket pocket. She had deliberately miscounted her shots to encourage his tactical miscalculation. "Mathematics were never my strongest subject," she replied, shifting position to maintain optimal firing angles. "I was always better at applied physics." The SEAL rounded the corner toward her concealed position, weapon raised and ready. Rodriguez had anticipated his movement pattern based on his previous tactical choices. She fired twice in rapid succession, the first round striking his shooting hand and disabling his weapon, the second catching him in the shoulder and spinning him against the opposite wall. He dropped his HK and reached for what appeared to be a backup weapon, but Rodriguez was already moving. She closed the distance in 3 quick steps and delivered a precise strike to his carotid artery, dropping him unconscious without permanent damage. Her father had taught her that particular technique during her 15th summer, explaining that unconscious enemies provided better intelligence than dead ones. The entire engagement had lasted 37 seconds from initial contact to final target neutralization. Rodriguez quickly secured the weapons from all 4 attackers, then checked each man for additional threats and identification. The 3 she had shot were deceased, but their documentation suggested they were contract operatives working for an intelligence service she couldn't immediately identify. The SEAL carried authentic military identification, but something about his credentials seemed inconsistent with his operational behavior. She zip-tied his hands behind his back, using restraints from her tactical kit, then applied pressure bandages to his shoulder wound with supplies from the diner's first aid kit. Professional medical attention would be required, but he would survive for interrogation. The sound of approaching sirens indicated local law enforcement was responding to reports of gunfire. Rodriguez holstered her weapon and prepared to assume her cover identity as a federal agent, responding to a terrorist threat technically accurate, if not precisely complete. The aftermath of the engagement required careful coordination between multiple federal agencies. Rodriguez's identification as a classified operative necessitated immediate involvement from her chain of command, while the presence of foreign intelligence operatives on American soil triggered broader counterintelligence protocols. Special Agent Sarah Kim from the FBI's Counterterrorism Division arrived within 47 minutes of the incident, followed by a team from the Defense Intelligence Agency that included Rodriguez's actual commanding officer, Colonel James Mitchell. The coordination between agencies proceeded smoothly, testament to protocols developed through years of interagency cooperation. Captain Rodriguez, Colonel Mitchell, said privately while the crime scene was being processed, "Your actions tonight prevented what could have been a significant intelligence breach. The operative you captured has already provided information about a broader network attempting to compromise our special operations personnel." The unconscious SEAL had indeed been turned by foreign handlers. His family threatened to ensure cooperation. His mission had been to identify and locate American Special Operations veterans for potential recruitment or elimination. Rodriguez's classified background made her a high-value target. "Just doing my job, sir," Rodriguez replied, watching as the crime scene technicians documented the tactical engagement. "Though I'd prefer if this incident didn't appear in any official reports. My cover identity has been useful for ongoing operations." Colonel Mitchell nodded. "Already handled. Officially, this was a robbery attempt thwarted by an off-duty federal marshal. Your involvement will remain classified at current levels." The diner's owner, Mel Patterson, approached Rodriguez as she prepared to depart with her military handlers. "Ma'am, I don't know who you really are, but I want you to know that coffee's on the house anytime you're in town. Hell, meals too. What you did tonight, protecting folks like us, that means something." Rodriguez accepted his gratitude with the same professional demeanor she maintained in all civilian interactions. "Thank you, sir. I was just in the right place at the right time." But Patterson wasn't finished. "I heard what happened back there. 4 armed men against 1 person, and you handled it like something out of a movie. Military training?" "Physics and applied mathematics," Rodriguez replied with a slight smile. "Amazing what you can accomplish with proper preparation." The teenage couple who had been in the far booth approached hesitantly. "Are you really some kind of secret agent?" the young woman asked. "Because that was the most badass thing I've ever seen in real life." Rodriguez considered her response carefully. Maintaining operational security was paramount, but these civilians had witnessed extraordinary events that deserve some level of acknowledgement. "I'm just someone who believes that protecting innocent people is worth doing well," she said. "Anyone can learn these skills if they're willing to put in the work and accept the responsibility that comes with them." As she departed with her military escort, Rodriguez reflected on the evening's events. The intelligence breach represented a significant threat to American special operations, but the capture of one operative and neutralization of his handler network had prevented broader damage. More importantly, the incident had demonstrated that her cover identity remained viable for future operations. 3 weeks later, Rodriguez received a commendation from the Secretary of Defense for extraordinary service in defense of national security interests. The ceremony was conducted in a classified facility with only 7 attendees, and the citation contained no specific details about her actions. Her personnel file remained classified at presidential levels. Staff Sergeant Mills, the NCO who had originally dismissed her capabilities, was not present at the ceremony. He had been transferred to a logistics position in North Dakota, where his administrative skills would be put to appropriate use far from operational personnel decisions. Rodriguez returned to her cover duties as a cultural affairs specialist, maintaining the same unremarkable appearance and professional demeanor that made her invisible among her colleagues. Her true capabilities remained hidden, available for deployment when American lives depended on someone willing to do whatever mathematics and physics demanded. The diner incident became part of local folklore, though the true details remained classified. Mel Patterson kept his promise about free coffee, and Rodriguez occasionally stopped by during her leave periods, sitting in the same corner booth and reading newspapers while maintaining her cover as an unremarkable federal employee. She never mentioned that she had received standing orders to remain available for similar operations, or that her encrypted communication device carried messages from theaters of operation around the globe. Some capabilities were too valuable to advertise, and some mathematics were too precise to explain to those who hadn't earned the right to understand them. In a world where threats could emerge anywhere, at any time, America needed operators who could blend seamlessly into civilian environments while maintaining the skills necessary to neutralize hostile forces with surgical precision. Rodriguez represented the perfect synthesis of invisible professionalism and extraordinary capability, weapon that nobody saw coming until it was far too late. Subscribe if you believe that America's most effective defenders are often the ones whose names you'll never know, whose faces disappear in crowds, and whose extraordinary capabilities remain hidden until the moment they're needed most.